Welcome to the show. You are one-on-one with West Sports Guy here on YouTube and online all the time at westsportsguy.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and that Liberty bell to get notifications when a new episode has been posted at youtube.com. I'm going to jump right into it this week. I also have a special announcement to get to at the end of this episode here on One-on-One with yours truly, West the Sports Guy. Starting off to this week, the All-Star Game in Major League Baseball has taken place, and the American League has won it again. It's no shock there from this person's perspective, because I am a fan of the American League, as the hat and the shirt, as you can tell, basically alludes to the fact that I am an Angels fan. So tough. That's the way it is. That's the way it goes here on One-on-One. But anyway, Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros ended up getting the All-Star Game MVP award by hitting a home run in extra innings. Yes, the All-Star Game did go to extra innings, but it did not end in a tie, thankfully. It did not get to that point. Thank goodness, because we don't want to see what happened back in 2002 again in Major League Baseball. I don't want to see that again. But regardless, Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros got the MVP award. The American League won in extra innings, and it was also a great showcase of the star power that you can say that's there in Major League Baseball, as Aaron Judge and Mike Trout both hit home runs earlier in the game for the American League. Also, you had lesser-known players like Scooter Gennett tying the game for the National League late to force it into extra innings for the NL. And all in all, it was a very solid showing for both leagues. Pitching was not on par as it has been in years past by some players, but again, there was some very talented pitchers out there on display. But the hitters were the name of the game this year, as both leagues combined for, I think it was about 8 total home runs this year. That was an All-Star Game record. So the power was on display, as it was in the Home Run Derby. No surprise, Bryce Harper, the hometown team representative for the Washington Nationals, he ended up winning the Home Run Derby for his representation of his hometown team. Not that he's from Washington, D.C., but regardless, the Nationals were on full display at the Home Run Derby and in the All-Star Game for a little bit as well. Max Scherzer was the starting pitcher for the National League, but he did give up 1 home run to Aaron Judge. Mike Trout was the other that hit a home run, but that was off of Jacob deGrom for the New York Mets. But all in all, it was as expected. It was an exhibition game. It really didn't count anymore. They don't have home field advantage for the All-Star Game winner. Major League Baseball ended that experiment a few years back, but not a whole lot to be expected from this, but it was entertaining nonetheless. It took 3.5 hours out of my day and made me forget about everything else that was going on in the world at that particular time, and that's what the All-Star Game is meant for nowadays. But it's also a good chance to see players that you don't see on an everyday basis, but seeing how this day and age is 24/7, you should be able to see most of these players for a good chunk of your time if you spend watching highlights in Major League Baseball. But it was good nonetheless for the game and for its future. Heading into the rapid fire segment that has a different ring to it. Starting off the Ring of Fire segment, Mike Matheny of the St. Louis Cardinals was fired just before the All-Star break by the club. The St. Louis Cardinals had a bit of a rough start to the season, you could say. They are not totally out of any wild card spot or even the division title. They do have an outside chance of it in the NL, but Mike Matheny was let go before the All-Star break. There was a bit of a rumbling happening in the clubhouse where it was reported that he didn't even speak to one of the players the entire season, Dexter Fowler, who was a big free agent signing a few years ago for the Cardinals from the Chicago Cubs. And also you had a bit of a, not brouhaha in the bullpen between Bud Norris and Jordan Hicks, but it came to light, and the Cardinals didn't want to have any of it, and they decided to change the voice of the clubhouse and manager Mike Matheny, which had a lot of years of success for the Cardinals in the beginning when he was first hired as manager. And it was kind of unexpected because he had no experience as a manager at any level whatsoever when he was hired after Tony La Russa had retired from managing the Cardinals. But a bit of a shock, but not really when you look at it from a baseball perspective. Mike Matheny let go by the St. Louis Cardinals. Le'Veon Bell did not get a long-term extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the running back, star running back, you could say the best in the game right now. A bit of interesting comments by his agent saying that 2018 is likely going to be his last year in Pittsburgh, and history could say that is true because you wouldn't expect the Steelers to franchise tag him for 3 years in a row. That really doesn't happen very often in pro football, but It's going to be interesting to see how Le'Veon Bell's production is going to go into this last season because it is a contract year. Sure, you expect him to still perform at the level that he's used to, but if there's a major injury that comes along, that could spell the end for any chance of a big payday in the end. And he wants to be paid not just as a running back, but as an overall playmaker in the NFL because the guy can get 100 catches every season if he so chooses. And the Steelers, besides Antonio Brown, he is their second best receiver on that roster, no doubt about it. So seeing that this and the comments made by his agent that 2018 will most likely be his last year, it's going to be interesting to see how the Steelers handle that. If they can come to terms before the next year's offseason, we'll see how that works. Manny Machado finally got traded from the Baltimore Orioles to the Los Angeles Dodgers. That was for a 5-prospect deal that the Dodgers sent to the Orioles to get Manny Machado. He is a free agent after this coming season, so it is a rental, you could say, but with the bank that the Dodgers have backing them going into next year and the anticipation of highly touted free agents in Major League Baseball, Machado being one of them, the likelihood of the Dodgers keeping him is pretty strong, but this year was a bit different because their other shortstop, Corey Seager's been down with Tommy John surgery, done for the whole year, so that's why this trade ended up happening the way it did. Do I see Machado staying long-term with the Dodgers? Time will tell, but he seems to love wanting and having the chance to play for a contender this year, and the Dodgers certainly are. And now you add Machado to that lineup, which has been pretty good without him. It's looking really good for the Dodgers. They could go right back to the World Series again. And as a little side note, my prediction for the World Series this year, I know you're not going to like hearing it again, but it was Dodgers and Yankees, and the Dodgers winning it, ending that drought of not winning a World Series since 1988. Yeah, it's been that long. And this might help them with getting Manny Machado. Finishing off the Ring of Fire segment, Kawhi Leonard was finally traded from the San Antonio Spurs to the Toronto Raptors, of all places, in a 2 or 4-player total deal and a 2-for-2 swap with the Raptors and getting DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan going to San Antonio, Leonard going to Toronto. It is inevitable that it was going to happen. Leonard was not going to be playing this season with the Spurs, regardless of if he got traded or not. I didn't see him playing for them 1 second. It's just a deteriorated relationship from management to teammates to personnel, anything you want to throw into that pile there. Leonard was not having any of it. I could go on and on and on about the story, but you already know this by now. Kawhi Leonard is making his intentions known that he also wants to play for the Lakers next season when he is a free agent. So time will tell how that's going to work out, but him getting traded to a different team, different conference, and different country, because it is in Canada after all, it will be interesting to see how it plays out, but Kawhi Leonard will definitely be motivated to prove that he is still one of the best players in the game right now, and doing it in a different conference might lessen the hype and the pressure that comes with that, but time will tell. As I said, Kawhi Leonard's still one of the best players in the game, and he's going to have a chance to prove that with the Toronto Raptors next season. Time for the segment that won't tax your tap water. Do you remember?
You remember?
Do you remember when players would market themselves in a very creative and likable way? As you can see in the Be Like Mike ad by Gatorade and Michael Jordan back in the early 90s, that just warms your heart just to see that little snippet of that great ad, and it stands the test of time. You can't argue with that. The reason why I bring this up with players marketing themselves in such a creative and positive way is with Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, making comments about the marketing of its best players, and specifically Mike Trout of the Los Angeles Angels. He basically said to the effect that you do need one thing in order to market players of that magnitude, and you need the player to step up and essentially help with the marketing of themselves as well. Well, I found those comments to be a little weird, and I understand the perspective that Major League Baseball is giving, but I don't understand why it's got to essentially be mostly on the player at that point. Sure, you do need the player to actually, come to a commercial shoot, a marketing meeting, whatever that may be, in order to better market that player for your game. I get that part of it. But when you see how Mike Trout conducts himself on an everyday basis for the Angels, whether it's at home or on the road, he conducts himself in the best way possible. He signs as many autographs as he can, takes as many pictures with with fans and dignitaries of all shapes and sizes, you could say, on an everyday basis. He goes above and beyond anything that any player could do in any sport. It's very nice to see. It's refreshing. And so the Angels countered Manfred's statement during the All-Star break with a statement of their own, basically saying that Mike Trout goes above and beyond, both on and off the field. He does it in his way, the way he wants to do it, and Mike Trout wasn't bad-mouthing the commissioner at all, and the Angels really didn't do it either, but they're defending their player, obviously, as they should, and Mike Trout was not bad-mouthing the commissioner. He says, no, I have nothing against him. We're all on the same page here. We understand what's at hand here. I'm focusing on baseball. I don't really want to market myself to that degree, but I'm playing baseball right now, and that's what I'm focused on. And that's really what it comes down to. He's marketing himself through his play. He doesn't have to do a bunch of commercials to get that marketing share, you could say. He's doing it on the field. It's like when trash talkers want to do a lot of trash talking, but they're not letting their play do the trash talking for them. Mike Trout is letting his play do the marketing for himself. And that's perfectly fine. Not every player wants to market themselves, and they honestly don't have time to do that. If your plate is full in your personal life, I strongly suggest you stay with that. Don't try to focus on something else that you just don't have the time for, and you don't want to take away from that personal life and do something that you're really either not comfortable with or you just don't feel like doing. You don't have to do that. And it's admirable. I don't fault the commissioner for what he said. I don't fault the Angels for their statement, and I don't fault Mike Trout for doing it the way he wants to do it. Let him be. His play is doing the marketing for himself. He's already won a couple MVP awards. He has a Rookie of the Year trophy as well. He's got Silver Sluggers. I don't believe he has a Gold Glove yet, but that will come at some point as well. He's got a couple All-Star Game MVPs as well to his belt. He is the best player in baseball. If you can't wrap your mind around that without seeing him on a commercial every day of your life, I'm sorry. That's just not the way this is supposed to work. He's letting the game and the way he plays it do his marketing for himself, and that's perfectly fine with me. Time to finish this week on a positive note. The feel-good story of the week is the My Wish segment is back on ESPN. They've got 4 new athletes that they introduced, giving wishes to kids that have either recovered from serious illnesses or are currently battling them. 4 of the athletes that they have done this year: Jordan Spieth, professional golfer; Jimmy Butler of the Minnesota Timberwolves; Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals; and Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees. Those were the My Wish participants this year for ESPN. It is a great segment. It's one of the best ones that ESPN does on a yearly basis. It's been over 10 years now that they're doing this. I encourage you to check that out. Go to ESPN.com and search My Wish. All of them will be there for this current crop of wishes and also past ones as well. It's been over 10 years. I applaud ESPN and the Make-A-Wish Foundation for collaborating on this. It is one of the best things that you could watch on a daily basis, really. You know, it's not just one time a year that you can watch it, but any time of year it's great to watch. And I encourage you, if you can, to make a donation to the Make-A-Wish Foundation as well. It is a great organization, and I back them 100%. Every single hour of every single day. They're doing great work for kids of all ages and their families as well. Not just for them, but they're doing it for their families as well. So encourage you to donate if you can. And I applaud ESPN for their effort and work on those projects with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Time for the announcement.
Listen up, this will only take a second.
I'm going to be making a trip to Cooperstown to see my favorite player, this guy, Vladimir Guerrero, if I can get that in camera angle there. Anyway, I've had this jersey since day one when he became a Angel back in 2004 and won the American League MVP award. I've been following this guy ever since he was with the Montreal Expos. I am ecstatic that he is going to be finally getting into Cooperstown. He should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I'm not going to get into that right now. I can go into that for many hours and many days, why he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, but regardless, he's going to be in this year finally. I will be there to see that happen along with the other inductees that are going to be in there with him. It's going to be a great time. I will be documenting it with lots of pictures, and I'll be doing my next show, episode 20 of One-on-One with yours truly, Wes the Sports Guy, at youtube.com. I'm probably going to be doing it on Facebook Live and Instagram stories as well. So be sure to follow me on those platforms, but also subscribe, hit that Liberty Bell button at YouTube to get the next episode when it drops, episode 20. I will see you in Cooperstown next week. Looking forward to it. Take care and have a great week.